Hello YouTube. Welcome back to Nutkin Farm. Now you can't see this, but I have a special guest with me today, and he's a macadamia farmer, and like most macadamia farmers, they don't want to show you their face, but they're happy to show you their nuts. And so I'll let him introduce himself. Some of you who watch my videos will have also watched his videos. So
over to me, yeah. How are you guys? I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. So
he's
it's good to be here, guys. I'm just coming to have a look with Daniel. Just having a look at his farm and sort of having a look around at what he's done for the past year since he's owned it. And it's interesting to always check other orchards out, see what other guys always do on their farm, as well as gain a different perspective. And that's the whole idea of it, is always to sort of see as many different farms and as many different sort of ideas and sort of combine it into your own method for what works best for yourself. So thanks for having me here today, Daniel. I appreciate it.
No, it's great. And the level of collaboration between farmers, I mean, I can't think of an industry where people talk to each other more, and they're happy to help each other succeed rather than just compete with each other. It's a whole new industry, really, for me.
And that's how it should be.
You
know, like the more people share their information, whether it's the right method or something that doesn't fit in your sort of way of sort of running a farm, it's always about presenting the idea, and that's how I sort of look at it. And and at the end of the day, everyone wins from it because we're able to share that information to everyone. So and it's always good. I'm always interested to see different orchards, learn about guys' practices like yourself, and like I said, if we can all gain something from it at the end of the day, well, so be it, which is great. So
well,
so we're looking at this section here that you sort of
this is block 2, and I did a video here it's a couple of months ago, and my theory at the time was I was going to remove every second row of this block. And then what I realized when I went through it a bit more, I thought, well, hold on, these, I think they're 344s. I mean, who knows? I don't know, what do they look like to you?
No, they do look like a 344. A good way of identifying a 344 is generally it's got like a straight leader. But if you ever see a tree with multiple leaders, that could indicate a 246. But generally speaking, because the leaves are pretty much similar, it is harder to tell that a straight leader, central leader, can also be a 741. But generally speaking, if a tree's got a central leader, it's a 344, 741. Or if a tree's got multiple leaders, maybe like that second tree here that we're taking, that could be a 246 because it's sort of branching in different angles.
So an upright tree, I know a 344 is an upright tree.
Yeah, correct.
So you identify an upright tree by the fact of a prominent central leader. Is that right? Right.
Spot on.
Okay.
So, you got to think as well, probably when these trees were planted so many years ago, they might have mixed a few of the 344s around with the 741s or the 246s. Whereas today, it is more structured. For what guys do, and it's not taking anything away from the guys, but it's just probably how it's done then. It was planned with the old hand and eye sort of scenario, so the spacing between trees could probably vary between 4 and 5 meters, and even the width to go along with it, and it's just the way it is.
The row width, you'll find, we'll walk along here in a sec, the row width does change a fair bit, but I thought, rather than remove every second row, I realised that the ones at the top of the block here, for some reason, were a lot taller than the ones at the bottom of the block, which I think I can get control of with a bit of pruning. So further down the hill there, they're not a bad sized tree. They're underfed and they're sick. They're a bit sick, but they're coming back. And I think if I use pruning, I can keep them under control. So my experiment with these trees that are taped, they've got the reflective tape on them, is I'm going to remove those 2 rows, leave a row, and then remove another 2 rows there, and plant a new row in the middle here of where these 2 were, and the theory is it's going to get enough sunlight to grow the new tree and also shelter it.
And the benefit of doing that way is that if you had just done a single row removal and replanted, because the trees side by side are so big and mature that by the time that middle row, if you only did 1 row, by the time they start cropping, you're going to have the other trees sort of combining in on it. So the structure of that young tree that's going to be developing will be more upright
Spindly.
and vigorous, as opposed to sort of developing out like it should. So you got to always think of like, the time frame it's going to take to get that tree going.
Yeah.
As well as like, the other trees coming into it, and having a tree down the middle, it's gonna have sufficient light. What will the spacings been in, like?
Well,
14 metre row spacings even.
We're going to, well, if you removed every second row, it'd be 14 metre spacing, but removing 2 rows and planting 1, you end up with 10.5 by 4.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's manageable so long as you keep the tree height under control.
Yeah,
We should move down here. So basically, these are planted on a curve. What do you think about the crop load? I've got some nuts in the tree, but it doesn't look like heaps.
It's still early days.
Yeah.
It's like it's always hard to sort of gauge a crop until it's pretty much sized, which is towards sort of that end of December period, where the tree should be where it should be.
Right. Is that why you do your top 10? No, not top 10. That's why you do your top variety.
Yeah, my best variety.
I notice you always do them in December.
Yeah. And that's because I've sort of got a more visible sort of know of sort of what varieties have performed better than others.
Right.
And I guess it's just too hard to gauge, especially if it's a sunny day and you're trying to sort of gauge a crop. It's sort of near impossible because you've got to think there's green leaf and small nut, and they're green as well.
Yeah.
And the trees are like 7-8 meters tall, and if the crop is mainly sitting up the top, it is hard to sort of see.
Yeah.
If you do want to try and this time of the year to try and gauge a crop, it's best in an overcast day. That's when it sort of it makes it a bit more visible. But like I said, you're pretty much sort of guessing yourself where you think the crop will be until towards the end. And of course that sort of coincides just prior to the harvest season. I know where the crop will be.
Yeah. Now I need to push over. The previous farmer cut a lot of these. I don't know why. 3 trees in a row just cut. But this one sprouted. The others are dead. Yeah. Is that an H2 or what? I mean, is this? I know that sometimes they used H2 as the rootstock, but I see mature H2s. They have a round leaf, and this has this big long serrated leaf. I know that'll never give me another nut. No. That's just that's waste of space.
The rootstock. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it possibly could be, but like what you're doing with removing the row, it is the best mode of action because it's just really taking up space that isn't being used. And that's the whole idea, is that when you do come across a mature orchard at times, you are going to find like little skeletons, and where work is required on the orchard to get it back how you want. It's to try and find exactly the orchard when you want to buy a Maca farm. Yeah. Especially a mature one, it's almost near impossible. Yeah. Because a lot of people always have their own management.
Well, so my friends are finding, yeah. I suppose the stats are important when people are buying a farm, but, some of the stats I've been looking at, they've been very low kernel recovery and sometimes a high crop of nuts, but that's sort of a reflection of the varieties as well as the nutrition, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. And it's always... with a farm, and especially a Maca farm, there's always going to be a plan in place, whether it's a good year or an average year. Yeah. It's about maintaining, feeding, composting, everything else onto the orchard, because you want it to perform sort of consistently, as opposed to sort of having an off year and an on year. It's all about consistency with a Maca farm, and that's the hardest thing about owning a farm, is trying to have a consistent farm as well. Yeah,
well, speaking of that, I mean, I'm hearing, and I've asked around my usual sources as well, and I know some people are having a really off year. There's stories of A16 having effective crop failure. And my neighbour, who does grow a lot of A16s, reckons that in his case, there's a few nuts there. Yeah. He reckons that in his case, the rain happened at the wrong time with flowering, and that may have hurt his A16s a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But then there's people who, I mean, I'm scared that I'm not seeing too much nut on my trees, except in patches. It's really, I think we were saying earlier, it's a patchy thing.
Yeah, and a lot of that could be brought about from the drought last season.
Right.
Because the trees have probably produced a reasonable crop during such diabolical conditions, and the amount of stress that the tree has been under to push that crop, that energy that wasn't able to get through the rainfall and sort of start getting itself ready for this coming season, the energy is just not there to push the crop that we want, and that's sort of hence maybe a lower than expected. And it also comes down to what the guys are doing on their farm. Like it's all about energy in, energy out. It's always part of the process with that, and it's just generally sort of what guys have got to do. That you got to, if you want something, you got to be able to sort of
invest in getting it. Yeah. It's so it's there's certainly some people who think that
that's an interesting A16.
Is it an A16? How do you know? Show me and my viewers how I can tell this is an A16. I didn't think I had any on this side of the orchard.
No, it's an A16 just through the leaf.
Right.
The leaf, like, just sort of...
You mean the rolled edges?
Yeah.
I thought A203s had the rolled edges.
No.
So and do they flower? Do they fruit in bunches? See this bunch here. Is that A16's fruiting pattern?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them have singles.
No.
Right. So what's this one next to it?
Yeah, that's an A16 as well. See how the leaf is much the same.
Right.
The rolled edge. Yeah. They're A16s. You can always tell an A16.
They've got these hanging racemes as well. Like I've seen these elsewhere in the orchard.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I had A16s in this block at all, whatsoever.
Yeah.
How strange.
But the crop looks good in those. That's interesting. And you can sort of see that's just been like heavily pruned.
At some point.
Yeah, and it's
a long time ago.
And the vigorous growth back into it is it's still producing that crop, and it's a bit of a message at times is it's crop in and out, even though it's not a big tree, but it's still, for the amount of volume that it has, it's producing a reasonable crop, and that's.
And you by that you mean cropping inside the tree near the trunk, which I can see here now. Actually, I can see the odd nut in there.
On the ends and the tops, it's in.
Right.
So you get more potential.
Oh well, that's something I learned, because I didn't think these were A16s. I didn't think I had any in this side of the orchard. You don't think these are?
No, they're not. Could be a Hawaiian variety.
Well, yeah. I mean, I assumed all these were Hawaiians. That leaf pattern there looks like 246, but then the nuts are
and see,
they're in bunches. See,
it's like everyone wants to try and be a leader. That's a prominent.
But there's one big leader here. So does that mean it's a 344 or?
No, because it's sort of breaking in the two. Sort of breaking into two from
right.
And then the limbs this limb's trying to act like a leader, and so's that one up the centre there, and so's over this side. They're easy to prune a 246.
Yeah. They sulk on you.
Yeah, but.
So if you had this as a young tree, would have you pruned one of these two branches out, or would have you allowed it to fork like that?
Well, it's going to do it naturally like that.
Right.
And because that's just the genetics of the tree. So I probably would have left it, because what it's surrounded by isn't an issue.
Right.
Obviously, it's had a tree missing over time.
Yeah.
But it's grown into its spot.
It's grown into the space.
And you could easily contain where it's spread from there. Once it grows up to another 4 or 5 meters, like a 7 meter height tree, you could easily maintain that height. But
but you certainly wouldn't get rid of that branch now, would you? No, you'd leave it there now.
Yeah, I'd leave it where it is. So.
See these nuts here? Is that a sign of any insect attack, that blemish there, or what do you think?
Doesn't
this...
look like it. Generally, that could be a bit of hail if you had any.
Had a bit of hail, but it didn't look like it caused dropping nut. Stick tight, or is it a shed? Oh, it's a shedding.
Yeah, it's just a bit.
What do you know? Yeah.
So, but that's a good sign.
Well, it's a sign. Yeah. It's a sign that there's enough nuts that it can shed, because it regards it as excess. Yeah.
And that's what you want to see.
Well, yeah.
And when you're sort of seeing that, you know that
you fed it enough.
Yeah, there's a crop in the tree here. So.
Yeah, but see, look, we still have the root exposure problems here, which is, yeah. The difference, I think, one of the differences between my farm and yours is that I can't get the truck and dog out here because of the road issues.
Yeah.
And delivering things like mulch and manure, it becomes very expensive because we've got, you've got to get truck after truck after truck of just the fixed body trucks come out here.
Yeah.
And anyway.
That's right, like, access and, for also placement, like land area for manure. Like last year, for instance, when I was getting my own compost sort of delivered, and manure and that, it was a lot of it was up the top because they just couldn't get the trucks down the bottom. So this year, when they delivered it down the bottom, I sort of took a few trees out. It was like 1 or 2 maca trees, and then just sort of made access down the side for them, and it wasn't a problem this year. But yeah, it is.
One of your more entertaining videos was the one where you had a big manure truck that had to get up the hill and you were ready to tow it if it was needed with your was it with your Carraro or with your your Sami?
The Sami tractor.
Right.
It's generally, if guys haven't delivered to the farm before, and they're just sort of
inexperienced.
They sort of quickly work out what they've got to do, and you sort of try and give them the heads up prior to sort of getting out of the place, because if it does get like a touch of rain, and if it's an older style sort of truck and it hasn't got the diff locks and cross locks and everything else, that's when the Sami comes out and helps them get up the hill. And once they pass that point, they're going again. So yeah, there's another A16.
Now, I was going to say, these cropped fairly well last year, and they look like they've got, actually, that's got a lot of crop this year.
Reasonable, very reasonable.
So my A16s aren't a crop failure for whatever reason. They did do some last year. I can see a bit of stick tight, which it probably should be telling me that it's...
And it also comes back to, once the nut size is more in the tree, you can identify it a lot easier. And it is hard.
What is it? Sometimes the shape of the nut too, or all right? Because some have points. Some have really big points on them. And there's this Queensland guide to macadamia identification, and I've brought a paper copy down with me, and I've looked at the bloody leaves, and honestly, it does my head in trying to work out what the hell I'm growing. I'm probably never going to get to the stage like you of saying what my things are. Hey, Mark. My agronomist has just arrived. You're on film, Mark. I'm making a video with Garth for the Nutkin Farm YouTube channel.
How you going?
But for the benefit of my viewers, Mark Duncan, best agronomist in the Northern Rivers. So he likes to tell me. How are you, mate? Good. We're just doing a walk through, and Garth thinks these are A16s, and I think, they cropped all right last year.
They did.
They
did. They were a surprise packet.
And there's but my mate next door reckons his A16s have all failed. But I've just now, for the first time on this trip, are looking up, and there's some A16s on the tree here.
There is.
But it's the Hawaiians that don't. Like, some trees have got a bunch, and then some trees have got nothing.
Yeah, hopefully all up the top, but it's not looking great.
Patchy all over, isn't it?
There it is.
Yeah, sort of saying the same thing with the guys. It's some farms are doing all right, and some farms are doing so-so. And I think the ones that aren't doing anything are sort of suffering more than the ones that probably are doing more.
You fed in May, didn't you?
No, I did in March. That was my last one, but I also did the 4 regular ones, like most people sort of do as a standard sort of fertilising program with the compost and that.
And you're moving to 6 feeds this year.
And this I've gone to 6. Jeez. So 6 and then sort of composting. So I'm really sort of trying to push the tree to do as much as I can.
6 smaller feeds though, or
still around 800 grams. So
a tree.
It's more than what I've done, and I'm doing the phosphoric acid on the tree trunks as well. So I'm just really trying to see what a tree can do, and with the price it is what it is. I guess if you can take a tree from 10 kilos to 12 kilos or 13 as an average, well, it's just going to pay for itself.
Right.
So that's the way I sort of look at it. If your tree's more productive, and then it sort of makes sense to sort of do what you can do to it, I guess. So, but you know, it's one of those things. Some guys stick with 4, but I guess if guys are even doing 4, it's good because a lot of guys just won't do really 3.
Anything much.
So you know, it's all about trying to make people do it and see the value in it, I guess. So
I do what my agronomist tells me.
Yeah,
and then I suggest that he tells me. Then I suggest that he tells me more, and then I do that as well.
it's the organic matter, I think,
Is a big
key, and you know the other stuff's just correcting deficiencies.
They still haven't put my manure on. I'm a bit upset about that, but I'll have to ring the contractors. That's the problem with contractors, but they haven't put my silica booster down yet. Yeah.
Are you seeing much Sargassum?
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. The indoxacarb's been a bit disappointing this year.
Right. Do you think it's resistance or when it was sprayed? Because my neighbour reckons he sprayed at the wrong time, that rain happened very soon afterwards. And he also has this theory that Mycogastris went over and flew over to his orchard and thought his orchard was better eating or something like that than mine one was.
It's pretty much common everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, we're seeing it across the board.
Right. Have you seen it? Have you just arrived here? Or you?
Yeah, yeah, we've been through that block there.
What are you finding?
Eggs.
Yeah, I got some eggs.
Sargassum, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Bit of small,
Or Macadamia seed weevil, as we're supposed to call it. Yeah, I like Sargassum. It's a better name.
Yeah.
And a little bit of spring bug.
Yeah. Bit of fruit spotting bug. Yeah. So we sprayed with Trivor, which is this Garth, this new, it's a new generation insecticide, which we thought is good for fruit spotting bug.
Yeah.
And
coverage is going to be
the big issue
because it doesn't have any residue.
Right.
Even though it's a systemic, it's a dual action, but
yeah,
it won't give you much
residual.
Like Bulldog will potentially give you up to 7 days.
Right.
Residual. So it's sort of a little bit more forgiving for coverage.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's Transform, which is also systemic. But,
yeah,
but God, that's expensive stuff.
And big question marks on
efficacy,
controlling adult bugs.
Right.
Really. So if potentially better in the early season. Really.
Yeah. But we knew it'd be a high pressure year with a slightly better rainfall.
Oh yeah, that's right. And that's what it's all about, I think. But with the
as you can see, I have to mow, so I'm going to be mowing for 5 days straight and putting all the carbon back under the trees. But
you're gonna.
Yeah.
What's your plan for that mowing going forward?
I want to do it. I want to keep it down.
Yeah, but by yourself?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'll do it at least once a month, but I'm up here a couple of times a month. And look, during January, I paid a big price last January. I left it for 1 month, and I came back and it was 5 foot high. I won't be doing that this January.
Yeah, you're going to have to start controlling it in January so you don't have to do that,
the slashing.
The herbiciding.
Yeah. Have you seen the pruning over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made a bit of a mess of the ground, but what was it? Is it any good?
The pruning?
Yeah. Not really.
Don't like it.
Okay. I'm going to show Garth and see if it's what he would do. We were heading on our way there to see the pruning now, but I had a ride around on the quad bike yesterday, and I mean, I don't know, it looked a bit brutal to me, but I just don't know how to measure it. You know.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. I mean, that's what they were contracted to do.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can do it any other way.
Yeah. One limb a tree, not the leader, something that supposedly was going to go out into the inter-row. That was the instruction.
So if the goal is to let light in, and let light into the tree and let light onto the ground, it's done it.
Yeah.
Long term, I don't see it being viable because all those those 344s
they'll just grow up again.
They'll just grow up.
Yeah.
For 5 years without any production.
Yeah. But that's hence the replant plan, which is the real plan.
Yeah.
I just showed Garth there the rows I was going to remove, and hopefully that'll get done soon.
Yeah.
And plant in autumn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you got to do you need new trees.
Yeah. But A203 or something like that, and I've been in touch with David Bell at Hidden Valley and said, give me some A376s to be a guinea pig with, because those are apparently absolutely hot stuff. But the PBR hasn't been registered, and so he's a bit reluctant to let them go. So anyway, something like that. I'm always experimenting. Anyway.
Easy, mate?
Yep.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah. He's picked up a couple of farms in this area too now, with Cloudview and that sort of thing. Yeah. It's a
no, flat out.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Anyway.
Is that a good thing?
Not good sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, when you do a good job, you get popular. I think that's not a bad thing. It works in my industry too. So
yeah, we just try and keep on top of it. But we'll probably look. We don't want to rush ahead and to recommend a spray immediately. So we'll probably come back again. Yeah. And then if it needs to be done, look, my spray contractor's the best thing about it. He'll come within days. He's been looking after us, Trevor. Look, I had my doubts about him, but
he's really
contractors at the moment are doing my head in.
Right.
We need to do something about it. There's too much reliance on contractors.
But there's blow-ins like me from Sydney who don't know how to do it themselves,
That's
and
the
it's a growing market.
It is a problem.
I'm the problem.
There needs to be more competition.
More guys need to realise you can make you can make a buck from contracting and offering decent quality.
My theory is this: if we could pay them more, for them to do,
I don't like the sounds of that. Yeah.
To do less, pay them more to do less farms. Like you would have to pay them more so you could pay for time, because it's time sensitive.
Well, I had a couple of guys, probably half a dozen guys, who were saying they're waiting for 3 weeks, and I had a look at this guy's orchard, and it was just riddled.
Don't tell me whose it was.
Oh,
no, best not use names.
Martin and Colette.
Yeah, that was one of them. yeah, Martin Colette. Also, there's another one in Nuibar.
Yeah. I know the one.
He just had that much on the ground. I said, did you just spray? Because I thought it was dead stuff falling. He goes, no, he hasn't even been out yet.
Ray?
What is the what's on the ground?
Yeah.
Dead nuts.
Just Sargassum.
Oh, weevils on the ground.
Yeah, the proper name. And I just said, well, mate, I said, if that's on the ground, I said, wait till you spray it and see what comes down after it, because it'll still keep dropping. I said, just... Because the problem is...
So can that wreck an entire crop, that weevil?
Yeah. Well,
if it's severe enough?
Yeah, well, I reckon until we got indoxacarb, we were losing 20%, and that's even with a spray program.
And you were spraying orthene, acephate?
We were spraying acephate, superthine, and bulldog.
Yeah.
Right. And orthene's nasty stuff too, and the bulldog then causes mites to flare. So none of those were entirely clean. Yeah.
Oh, well, no.
No.
That's all we...
So let's hope they haven't got resistance to indoxacarb, I suppose.
It's to have egg laying coming back into a systemic insecticide that early is alarm bells.
So either have to do it again.
It will happen. They're going to get resistance to it.
Right.
I reckon, unfortunately. So we need to keep...
Something else.
Yeah.
Some parasitic wasp or something.
Endo?
Endosulfan.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah. That's nasty stuff.
It's basically DDT.
Yeah. And look, the consumers don't want that on their nuts, and I don't want that on my farm. I've got sensitive waterways.
No, we're not using that.
I was reading all the guides. Honestly, I researched like crazy, so I've gone back to the 70s and 80s and looked at what they recommended for macadamias then.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, wow. What a difference, the kind of things they're recommending now, people would just shake their heads at.
Well, I'm copping flack from growers now because of their chemical bills.
Yeah. I'm not giving you flack, but actually the Trivor wasn't that bad, but the Transform, that was $1,000 just for the chemical. I think for my orchard. Or no, it was about $1,300 I think for the chemical.
The Transformer is double the price.
But it wiped out the lace bug.
Yeah.
It completely wiped out the lace bug.
Effective.
Yeah, it was very effective. It's systemic, so if it rains the next day, it still works,
It's exactly what we need. We need a soft one to start with.
Yeah.
and if we need to ramp up the toxicity and the residual at the end, well, so be it.
Of course, yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
And we should let you guys do your thing, and whereabouts are you going to have a look?
I think we're based on what we're just going to come back next week.
Right.
Yep.
And see if those eggs have developed into
that's right.
nymphs or whatever they are.
See if it slows down.
Right.
It's too early to just go and recommend a spray now.
Right. But if it is, it'll be indoxacarb again?
Oh.
Maybe. Think about it. Get back to me.
Some of the nuts are quite small.
Yeah. I've noticed, yeah. I mean, like this one here, the nuts are small, but there's the odd tree that's got big bunches of big nuts, almost like it flowered a month earlier or something.
Yeah.
It's a strange mishmash of stuff. Is this all A16 too?
No.
That's a Hawaiian, and someone must have planted these A16s as a sort of an afterthought after these other Hawaiians were planted.
These are what
they cropped okay last year.
Yeah, these were what I thought were 800s. These ones?
They might be, although the 800's meant to have a bunch of spines on its leaves. It's meant to be pretty serrated, and that's fairly smooth.
No, I don't know. I think that's pretty serrated.
Yeah.
Every leaf's different.
I've noticed, yeah, some of the younger leaves are different again.
It is.
You're pretty sure it's an 800?
It's an 800. Because they stick tight as well. Look. They stick tight, 800 stick tight, they drop late.
These were a bit later dropping too, because I came around on my little harvester and we picked up a good couple of 100 kilos of them. They're very big nuts too, the 800s, when they perform.
Yeah.
But they got trialled here. They were all the rage in Hawaii, the 800. They thought it was worth giving them the 800 just for showing a new era of macadamia breeding, and they brought them to Australia and planted heaps of them. They didn't do so well.
Yeah.
You got any in the Tregeagle area, or you don't? You don't see them,
none on
Garth?
my place, so I haven't got any experience with them. But
they're not favoured. They're not really favoured.
No, I wouldn't plant more now, not from what I've heard. But
I'd prefer the tree structure to one of these than a 3-4-4. If you had,
this is a spreading, isn't it? There is a leader, but because it spreads out, that's the spreading method, right?
Yeah, it's more like it's a relative of a 2-4-6.
Yeah,
which is a spreader. And if you had these or 2-4-6s up there, I would have said that was a good job.
Right.
Up there.
The pruning job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just because you can't blame the contractor.
Oh, no. He was acting on my instructions. There's other things as well, like root exposure. You get free chip to cover the roots.
Oh, that's right.
And you've got light exposure that can allow some less erosion to occur, because there's some erosion on that slope. That's a steep slope.
But the problem with the contractor is that he thinks that's a good job.
Yeah.
But they don't realise that
for the tree,
5 years, you're going to get, in 5 years' time, it's going to be up here.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have any production in that time.
Yeah.
It'll be robbing the tree.
Well, I can spend $15 a tree pruning them, or $50 a tree removing the entire tree and chipping that. So it seems like the longer term investment is you remove the bloody rows and start planting high performing varieties.
I wouldn't be with its aspect there. I reckon you could plant in the middle.
Yeah. Well, there's enough. The slope actually allows more sunlight in than the flat land.
So you could remove every second row and replant.
Oh, without removing 2 rows at a time?
I reckon.
Oh, we'll have to have a chat about that.
Because of the aspect.
Right.
Plenty of sunlight coming in.
Yeah.
Plus you've done some limb removal to let more light in.
Yeah, which can't hurt. Yeah.
Anyway.
And we'll talk about that.
See how it goes.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we'll be on our way, but thank you very much for dropping in.
YouTube and,
I've got a few. I don't have as many fans as Garth though. Garth's the king of macadamias. He's got some of his videos have got thousands of views and whatever. And the only one I've got popular was called "Can You Farm Lifestyle as a Macadamia? Can you farm macadamias for a lifestyle choice?" And that gets lots of hits. Yeah. Take it off. Too much work for you.
They're our biggest problem.
I shouldn't be telling my secrets. See you later. Bye. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so what I've learned then is that someone probably pushed the envelope and put A16s underneath the Hawaiians that were already there. They're probably planted later, I reckon.
Probably they had a couple of spare ones.
Yeah.
Sort of could have fit them into the row at the time. Like I said, you know, when it's planted with the old hand and eye sort of method, it's, you know, sometimes it's sort of whatever fits at the time.
Oh, that's not a bad. Yeah. See, and maybe this is the 800s that Mark's talking about because it's not an upright tree or
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And this had a good lot of crop last year. It had a real sort of distinctive nut with a big groove in it. Right over there, they're what I thought were my A16s, just a few rows there.
Yeah.
And they flowered well this year, and I don't know, I hope they've got some nut. I just got a bit depressed by what my neighbour said about his A16s just having complete crop failure.
Well, like, it's always, I'm saying, it's to really sort of tell where the crop is. It's always that December period. And, you know, you can look into a tree and think there's nothing and come back 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And be a bit surprised. And, you know, I remember a guy says to me that sometimes where you see one, there's another 50 to 80 of them in the tree. So, you know, that's you know, you can't see them all in the tree. That's the main.
No, and I've heard advice saying never look up in November. Never look up because you'll be depressed.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Now this was the pruned block, okay? So you can see up there, look, obviously there's a limb removed there, chipped back to the tree there somewhere as chip.
Yeah.
So they sort of, I mean the instructions I gave them were sort of like what you did on your own farm. Yeah. Get rid of a branch, but don't cruel the whole thing so that the tree, don't send the tree into shock.
And I guess you got to sort of think about it, well, something's better than nothing at the end of the day, and you know, you sort of got a plan where you want to keep the tree in the ground for a bit.
Yeah.
You have to undertake something, whereas if you just sort of leave it, well, nothing's going to be fixed and you're going to have the same problem again.
Yeah.
It's how it is.
I mean, I'll cop some yield reduction. Here's, gee, they took a big limb there. I'm not sure. I mean, it turned into a lot of chip, as you can see, but this was an area sort of where the last owner had chopped down a lot of these trees anyway.
Yeah, I guess when you sort of look at like a prune tree like that, it probably didn't require that much heavy hand because there's nothing here next to it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you had that,
it could have used the space. Yeah.
Along the tree line, maybe you could undertake something like that. But it's sort of open. But you know,
this is the thing is, I mean, if I'm trusting a contractor, I can't go along and second guess every branch he cuts. Right. I've got to, unlike you, I've got to leave it to them.
Yeah. And the point is, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, someone's going to do it and someone's going to have a different opinion again. It's like 10 economists and 10 different answers.
Yeah.
It's the same with pruning, you know.
And I'm not getting you to rate the job. I'm just saying, look, it's just in terms of what the block needs. Yeah. What I saw was, of course, a lot of very tall trees. I mean, that's just way too tall for its own good. I don't see how a spray unit could get to the top of that tree.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they can.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
You know, especially if they adjust the pit in the back and they force a bit more air into the shoots.
Yeah.
You know, especially on a still day like it is today.
Yeah.
You know, they can travel up to sort of some 15 metres.
Yeah. So, with spraying, do you want a tiny bit of air movement? Like, is a tiny bit of air movement better than totally still?
I prefer
total stillness.
Yeah,
right.
Because that also that stops drift.
Right.
Spray drift, and you know, because it doesn't take much to sort of drift a bit of the spray once it's sort of left the vents and it's sort of travelled that 6-7 metres. It doesn't take much for that to drift across, and the less wind the better, so that you can control it more.
Right.
For where you want it to sort of be into the tree, so. It is a better method, but today, you know, it is very, very.
There's not much wind.
Yeah, it's very minimal and.
Feels like the calm before the storm a bit, doesn't it? Except we're not forecast to get a storm.
No, it'd be nice, you know, to get a bit of rain and sort of come through.
I've got a mob who may come on and remove these camphor laurels for free. There's a mob called I forget them now. Is it Viro? Oh, not Enviro, something. But they'll take the camphors for furniture if they're big enough. Nice. They'll turn them into furniture planks. So every bit of the tree's used. They come in, take your camphors, and
they clear it for you at the same time.
They give you a bit of chip, but mostly they'll take the chip with them because that's worth money to them as well. Yeah. And
it's a free process.
It's a win-win. It's a classic win-win. And I was thinking if I can get down some of these camphors here that are stealing light from the Maccas, we can head that way. So yeah, here's the bit of the steep incline where Mark said you could remove every second row and just replant. I mean, that's a pretty wide row spacing.
Yeah, it's a big spacing to begin with, but yeah, that could work.
And whoever planted the row clearly realised that there was a slope, and so they just left extra. Yeah. For these 3 rows in particular.
Which is, for slopey sections of an orchard,
you want to do that, yeah.
Bigger spacing because that keeps the grass there longer.
Yeah.
Stops the erosion. And
there is some in the wet. Yeah, I saw channels in the soil here when we had the last big dump in July.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you
there's some nut on the ground too. Still. Yeah.
When you sort of got bare soil, that creates a massive problem.
Definitely.
Sort of heavy rainfall, it just sort of washes away nut, washes away soil.
Yep.
And takes away all that hard work that you've done.
Yeah.
That you want to try and sort of maintain and sort of make the tree as healthy as you can.
Right. Now we need to talk a bit about you, Garth, because you're often making videos about your own orchard, but you have another life as the grower's liaison for Wally's Nuts. And particularly for those who are interested in entering the industry, I know when I did, I felt pretty much alone. I knew there were people like you to advise you and that sort of stuff, but a grower's liaison is employed by the nut processor to do what?
Yeah, so basically a grower liaison is there to help and support a grower.
Right.
Regardless of sort of what the job is, and not a grower liaison, not everyone's got the answer, so it's always good, if they don't have the answer, they can give you the contact of, being in the industry for a certain amount of years. You always build up contacts and relationships with other growers, other agronomists in the area, and it's all about, sort of helping the grower sort of achieve the goal of, helping the orchard, making it more productive, and whatever support's required. And generally a grower liaison will help, say, with bookings.
Right.
They do.
So book a skip to come to a farm, or
and it sort of varies from grower to grower, and even grower liaison to grower liaison.
Right.
Sort of what the the requirements are.
And I think you said in one of your videos that Wally's had about 90 odd growers on the books.
Yeah, that was 90. Yeah, we're up to about 105 now.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah, so we've got a large base of growers.
They've seen your videos, Garth. That must be it.
No, but it's I guess it's just it's what it's whatever attracts a grower. It's its own individual sort of take on it, and I guess
so there's relationship building, is there? I mean,
absolutely, and if there's help and support that a grower can sort of rely on, especially for a new grower, that goes a long way, and that just sort of it builds up, that trust. It builds up that sort of support, and when a guy calls and he's just bought a farm and he's not sure about doing something, or he just wants a second opinion. Yep. You're there to offer it. That's where it helps, and it's not necessarily the right answer. It's just
an answer, though.
Offering advice.
Yeah.
And that's what's needed, because it is a bit daunting, and that's why the channel was even created before I was a grower liaison. Yeah. It's just to sort of give people that idea of sort of what's required.
Well, it did that
in the industry, and sort of
it did that to me. I mean, it sort of helped manage expectations a bit as well. Yeah. But you've obviously, like, within that 105 growers Wally's has got, you'd have a mixture of rusted on farmers who know how to farm.
And they're the ones that they just do their thing.
Yeah, right.
And it's even me asking them what they do, because that's
right.
the whole idea, you know. It's not.
Well, it's information exchange.
You've got the answers to everything. It's always a continuous sort of learning to the process, and that's the whole idea.
But then there's a bunch of recent entrants like, you know, like myself, or who've come to the fresh.
Yeah, there's lots.
Is there a change in the balance in the last few years? Are there more new growers now relative to the older ones, or how's the industry shaping up? Yeah,
definitely the age demographic is younger.
Right.
And that's, you know, people who want a lifestyle. Like it is, you know, without a doubt, it's very expensive to enter macadamias. It's not cheap.
It's gone crazy now.
It's not lifestyle farming. It's not something that people just decide. You have to come from something. That's the reality of it. You have to come from some form of background to sort of enter it.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. It's because of the area, the land. You know, this is probably the most expensive agricultural land in New South Wales.
In Australia, it's the most expensive farmland in Australia.
Yeah,
and for a reason, we know why.
Yeah.
You know, red volcanic soil and reliable rainfall, or mostly reliable rainfall.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, with that comes a cost, and that's just what it is, and especially with the price of macadamias. But in terms of like new growing, it's there's been a huge turnaround. Most growers probably own a farm. It used to be 7 years.
Right.
Like obviously it might have changed because.
What do you mean? Farmers would only own a farm for an average of 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years.
And what, then get sick of it or something?
Well, they just.
I don't see myself getting sick of this.
Yeah, well, maybe they might be a bit disgruntled. You know, that's the reality of it. They might be a bit disgruntled, or they just hasn't turned out. And I guess, you know, part of it might be is that the industry and its knowledge 10 years ago is very different. And it's not that it's different, it's just that the information that is out there on what to achieve better. Like the guys who always achieve better have always had the information, have always done it. But, you know, the guys who are slowly sort of on the uptake of what's required to get your orchard going, they're all understanding now that, you know, you got to put your hand in your pocket. That's what it is. And if you're not doing that, well, you're not going to achieve the results. People get disgruntled and they move out, or they suffer, you know, a storm event. You know, like
right.
You know, it's as beautiful as it seems. There's also the other side of it.
Oh, there's the ugly side. Yeah, we
anything in life, you know, like it's not everything's like rose petals, or, you know, what they say.
Well, that hail event we had a few weeks ago, I must say I was more stressed then than I had been by any legal case I'd done for quite a while. That was, you know, and you know, I only just narrowly missed severe hail. You know, there was some places in Federal to the east of me got wiped out. Goonangeri in the north wiped out.
Yeah, Federal got knocked out.
And west up at Danune, they were getting some golf ball sized hail in places.
Yeah,
and it just, you know, 3 out of the 4 directions from this farm got you know, some heavy hail, and I managed to escape it.
Yeah, and that's the other side of farming, you know, like that can happen in any sort of industry, in any area.
Yeah.
But that's just farming, and I guess, you know, you sort of got to have a bit of thick skin.
Oh, yeah.
You know it, and if you sort of, you know, like those events that can take place, that's just nature, you know, that's farming, that's just what it is.
No
guarantees until it's all done.
I must confess, I went back to some of your old videos there where you were talking about the psychological side of running a farm, and it's real. You can feel it now. I once you've got skin in the game, you feel it. You know. Yeah,
and that's I definitely you know, experienced it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Where, you know, that hail event come through my own joint and sort of really turned, you know, I guess a more promising season into an upside down season, and that's just the nature of it. It is what it is, and I guess it's more or less, you know, even if you suffered from those events, you still got to continue on putting those requirements back into it, because obviously if you sort of start skipping on the fertiliser and then the compost and then the spraying and all that.
Well, you're guaranteed to get a bad result there.
Yeah. Then that's when you become disgruntled, and that's when you exit the game.
Yeah.
It's obviously not working for you, but you know,
you've
got to keep.
It's a classic bet. If you don't bet anything, you won't lose.
Yeah,
but
gambling.
But what you spend the money on with all this fertiliser and the spraying and stuff, you're paying for a chance to get a good crop.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and you're not paying for a guaranteed good crop.
Yeah, and it all comes back to sort of believing what you're doing. I was a big fan of that. You know, you got to believe in what you do, and that's the whole idea of it. You got to love the
science.
Yeah, and you got to go. Yep, I see value in it.
Yeah.
And I see that this is going to help with the crop, and it's not just about spending money on everything, but it's just spending money on the right things as well, and then seeing a return in it.
Now look at this bunch of trees here. Yeah. I mean, I need to take the chainsaw to these the way I did in my one of my other blocks. I don't know what varieties they are, but there's all these basal growths I need to cut out. Some of that's actually lantana, would you believe? What do you reckon? Is this A16 too? Yeah. Right, okay, so that makes sense. There's about 3 rows. There's about 3 rows of these trees. You think it's A16? Yeah. And these aren't cropping at all. I think they need some surgery down around the base. But
they will crop.
Yeah, not this year though.
Yeah, not this year, but you know, it will take place. But
yeah,
I guess you know, even with like replanting trees and all the rest.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you want to replant or do something,
you might as well pull them up.
Yeah.
These ones?
If something's sort of been undertaken like this, it's still going to be that variety at the end of the day, and that problem and issue at the end of the day that's associated with them. Yeah. Because it's such a process to get the yield back. Yeah. You might as well just pull them out and put something else in there that's sort of more promising. You know, maybe that's a stage thing. Like not everyone does everything at once. It's got to be managed.
Well, with the progressive replant, so you pull out the 2 rows, you plant one in the middle where it was. Oh, we can go up this way. You plant 2 rows. You plant one in the middle where it was, and then eventually, when that new row has grown up, you start removing the rows that were left. And then planting more new varieties there, and you eventually end up with a whole new block. Yeah. And then the question is then, you know, how aggressive do you go about it? And the AMS has done those seminars where they say, well, look, you'll take a dip in your income, but then they project it out over time saying, well, here's your longer term benefit. If you plant higher kernel variety trees like some of yours, like, I mean, yeah, I won't plant an 816 at this point because there's some new varieties that look more interesting. Yeah, for sure. But it's I mean,
and that's it. That's the other side of it, I guess. You know, plant the new variety of a higher kernel sort of producer as opposed to a standard 344 or 246 for that matter that's been planted throughout the whole sort of northern rivers for the past 40 years. You know, you may find that, you know, that's the way to go for the long term, because it probably will be. You know, we are a high kernel region, and that will always be our market. And
hopefully we're at the premium end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's your take on all these new varieties that almost invariably drop like August, July, like nearly all the new ones, even the MCT1, they're dropping much later than existing plantings. I mean, are they worth putting into an orchard that drops early?
Yeah.
It extends your harvesting period though.
Yeah, it really depends on sort of the layout to begin with.
Yeah.
Like whether or not, you know, the block's predominantly that season drop, like you spoke about earlier when we were talking.
Well, yours is largely early, isn't it? Apart from
except for the A's. And
what's your last dropping of the A's? Is it A16?
A16s and some of the A38s.
So the A38s can be...
Yeah, because they get stick tights, and you know, if a wind event comes through, they can still knock a little bit of nut onto the
course,
ground.
And that's useful. Yeah.
So, but you know, I could still be harvesting in August. Like, but when I say harvesting, it's very light sort of picking. It's not sort of bulk, sort of April, May.
Right.
Sort of period. It's sort of scratching around.
I think my biggest pickups were May, June. I think this last season. Is that? That's really the 344s.
Yeah, and also this season, Was later, probably because of the drought.
Yeah.
We were like 4 weeks behind a sort of regular season.
Yeah.
This season might just be a sort of that April, May sort of period where it's sort of it's more normal,
Right.
more balanced to what it normally is. So
see this blue fruit here? It's a quandong.
the quandong.
It's from those trees up there, native rainforest, blue. You can make jam out of them.
Really?
Need to add a lot of sugar. Yeah. But yeah, never seen a blue fruit before until I came along here and went, what the hell is this?
What is this?
So they look like macadamia nuts, but I'm pretty sure they're not.
So are they bat friendly?
Look, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they looks like a couple of them are eaten, but they're fairly bitter.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, Garth, thank you for coming on this tour of my farm with me. Very privileged to have you. Picked up a surprise additional guest, but that's all right.
Yeah.
And I'll have to return the favour one day.
Yeah,
come over to your farm and see how it's really done.
No. Do it anytime, mate. Anytime.
All right, we'll sign off now. Thanks everyone for watching this very long video. Bye.
Bye.